On the night of January 17th, 1961, a convoy drove into the darkness of southern Congo. In one of the cars sat a thin man with round glasses, his hands bound, his face swollen from days of beatings. Just 7 months earlier, this same man had stood before kings and cameras as the first democratically elected prime minister of an independent Congo. Millions saw him as the voice of a free Africa. He had held power for only 67 days. By sunrise, he would be dead, and for decades, the men responsible would try to erase every trace that he had ever existed. His name was Patrice Lumumba. And this is the story of how Africa's brightest hope became the Cold War's most famous victim. If you are enjoying this journey through Africa's history, take 1 second to like this video and subscribe with notifications on, because this story is part of our Congo trilogy, and you will not want to miss what comes next. Patrice Emery Lumumba was born on July 1925 in a small village in the Kasai region of the Belgian Congo. He was not born into royalty or wealth. He was the son of a farmer in a colony where Africans were legally treated as children under Belgian rule. But Lumumba had a weapon the colonial system could not take from him. He could read, and he read everything. He worked as a postal clerk and later as a beer salesman, and he taught himself history, philosophy, and politics in the evenings. He wrote essays and poetry. He joined study circles. In a colony designed to keep Africans out of power, Lumumba was quietly preparing himself for it. In 1958, he co-founded the Congolese National Movement, one of the first parties calling for full independence, not for one region or one ethnic group, but for a united Congo. His speeches electrified crowds. He spoke of dignity. He spoke of a Congo that belonged to the Congolese. And after decades of brutal colonial rule, which we covered in the first part of this trilogy, those words spread like fire. Belgium, facing growing unrest, suddenly agreed to hand over power. The date was set, June 30th, 1960. Independence Day should have been a celebration. Instead, it became a confrontation the world would never forget. King Baudouin of Belgium stood before the new nation and praised the colonial era as a gift of Belgian genius. He spoke warmly of Leopold II, the king whose regime had brought death and mutilation to millions of Congolese. Lumumba was not scheduled to respond. He rose anyway. Standing before the king, he described what colonization had actually felt like for the Congolese people. The forced labor, the insults, the beatings. He declared that the Congo's independence had not been given as a gift. It had been won through struggle. The hall erupted. Across Africa, people heard the speech and wept with pride. But in Brussels, in Washington, and in the boardrooms of mining companies, powerful men heard something else, a warning. Because the Congo was not just any colony. Beneath its soil lay copper, diamonds, gold, cobalt, and uranium. The uranium in the American bombs dropped on Japan had come from a single Congolese mine. In the middle of the Cold War, whoever controlled the Congo controlled one of the richest prizes on earth, and the new prime minister had just announced that it belonged to the Congolese. Within days, the young country began to break apart. The army mutinied against its Belgian officers. Belgium sent troops back in, claiming to protect its citizens. And then came the deepest cut of all. The mineral-rich province of Katanga declared itself independent, led by Moise Tshombe and supported by Belgian interests and foreign mercenaries. The Congo's treasure chest had been torn away just weeks after its birth. Lumumba appealed to the United Nations. Peacekeepers arrived, but they refused to help him retake Katanga. Desperate, he made the decision that would seal his fate. He asked the Soviet Union for planes and transport. Lumumba insisted he was not a communist. Historians who have studied his writings largely agree that he was a nationalist first, willing to accept help from anywhere to keep his country whole. But in Washington in 1960, the nuance did not matter. Declassified American documents later revealed that the CIA developed plans against Lumumba during this period, and a U.S. Senate investigation in 1975 confirmed that assassination plots had been authorized at the highest levels. The walls were closing in. In September 1960, President Kasavubu announced Lumumba's dismissal. Lumumba declared the move illegal, and into that chaos stepped a 29-year-old army colonel, a former journalist Lumumba himself had promoted. His name was Joseph Mobutu. If that name sounds familiar, it should. His full story is the final chapter of this trilogy, and it is already on this channel. Mobutu seized power in a coup, backed by Western support, and placed Lumumba under house arrest, guarded by UN troops on the outside and Mobutu's soldiers beyond them. In late November, Lumumba slipped out during a rainstorm and raced east toward his supporters in Stanleyville. For days, he crossed rivers and villages, stopping to greet crowds who came out to see him. Those stops cost him everything. On December 1st, 1960, he was captured near the Sankuru River. Film footage from those days shows him being paraded before cameras, hands tied, soldiers forcing his head up. He was beaten in front of journalists. The world saw the images. No government intervened. On January 17th, 1961, Lumumba and two allies, Maurice Mpolo and Joseph Okito, were flown to Katanga, the very province that had broken away, into the hands of his most bitter enemies. Witnesses later described the three men being beaten throughout the flight. That same night, they were driven into the bush and executed by firing squad. Belgian officers were present, a fact the Belgian government itself acknowledged decades later. Lumumba was 35 years old. What happened next reveals how much the killers feared him, even in death. Days later, his body was dug up, dismembered, and dissolved in acid. According to the Belgian officer who carried it out, almost nothing remained except a few fragments, including a single gold-capped tooth, which he kept. They did not just want Lumumba dead, they wanted him to vanish. But history had other plans. In 2002, Belgium formally apologized, acknowledging what an official inquiry called moral responsibility in his death. Historians still debate the exact extent of American involvement in the final act, but the pressure campaign against him is well documented. And in 2022, in a ceremony watched around the world, Belgium returned that single tooth to Lumumba's family, 61 years after his murder. One tooth. That is all that physically remains of the Congo's first prime minister. And yet Lumumba may be more alive today than the men who killed him. His independence speech is studied in classrooms across the world. His face appears on murals from Kinshasa to Harlem. Across Africa, streets, universities, and children carry his name. 67 days in office, a lifetime of influence. Lumumba's fall opened the door for the man who betrayed him. Joseph Mobutu would rule the Congo for more than 3 decades, renaming the country, looting billions, and building one of the most bizarre dictatorships in modern history. His full story is the final part of this trilogy, and the video is waiting for you right now on this channel. This is the African Chronicle, bringing you the most powerful true stories from African history. If this story moved you, the rest of the Congo trilogy will stay with you forever, from Leopold's hidden empire of rubber and blood to the dictator who wore leopard skin and stole a nation's future. Make sure you are subscribed with notifications on so you never miss an episode. We release new videos every week. Until next time, remember, Africa's history is world history. This has been the African Chronicle.